You're listening to an Airwave Media Podcast.
Hey there. My name is Blake, and I have just a quick note before we get started. Actually, it's more like a recommendation, because this podcast is an immersive audio storytelling experience. Part fact, part fantasy. It's best that you listen with headphones on, imagination on, and everything else turned off. Welcome to Abandoned, the All-American Ruins podcast.
Blake, this is a poem by Eugene Field in the late 1800s. It's called Little Boy Blue, I believe. My dad had me commit it to memory, this and a poem called If by Rudyard Kipling when I was little. So here it goes.
The car rolls to a halt, idles, then shuts off. It's early summer in 2021. This little project called All-American Ruins that simply started as a way to pass the time during the early stages of the pandemic has reached a milestone. It's been 1 year since the travelogue that chronicles my experiences exploring abandoned spaces across the United States was born. I never imagined that this hobby would transform into the enormous multiverse that's come out of my head. Yet here I am again, at another abandoned sanctuary, this time surrounded by a peaceful grove of trees in South Fallsburg, New York. The Mountain Drive-In and Arcade was abandoned in 1997, after 50-ish years in business. The rapid economic depression that swept the Borscht Belt from the 1970s until its peak decline in the 1990s gave way for the Mountain Drive-In and countless businesses and resorts in the region to shut down for good. The shells of decaying and dilapidated history left behind, a ferocious rapture.
Welcome to tradition. Welcome to the Catskills. Welcome to world-renowned resorts, to nature, nightlife, and family fun. It's all here in the Catskills, and it's all waiting to be enjoyed against a backdrop of spectacular scenery and fresh mountain air. The Catskills are waiting for you.
You can travel the whole world over. It's beauty to explore.
I peer across the vast field, still dotted by defunct metal pillars where speakers once stood, rolling vistas where cars used to gather under the night sky to watch outdoor movies on 2 different screens, complete with a rotted arcade that was, at one time, occupied by local teens just looking to pass the time in an isolated upbringing. I immediately think of my father as I begin to venture out across the vast terrain. A single, huge open pasture where the echoes of Hollywood hits and flops reverberate through the mystical Catskill Mountains.
And a hearty welcome to our drive-in theater. We have a wonderful evening's entertainment lined up for you, one that will provide several hours of pleasurable relaxation and diversion for you and your family. Did you fail to dress up for tonight's show?
You're a star. They let you do it. You can do anything. Whatever you want. Grab them by the pussy. Do anything.
In recent years, my relationship with my father has evolved into a more complicated place, incited by a single presidential election. It happened around the same time he was diagnosed with terminal illness in 2015.
This country owes its very existence to the strength and courage of its working men and women. Unfortunately, Many worked in areas contaminated by asbestos. If you or a loved one were occupationally exposed to asbestos and have been diagnosed with mesothelioma, a disease uniquely linked to a brief asbestos exposure.
It's 6 years later, and while I did lose my father to cancer, it wasn't mesothelioma. It was a presidency. He's never made an attempt to step into my shoes. And based on his personal religious ideology, he sees that me, a gay man, has only one fiery mythical destination at the end of my life.
I'm not going to let any of these dirty faggots inside my church. And nobody's, I'm not going to, these guys, they are all pedophiles. Look in the Bible, every time it shows the sodomites.
And still, with any complications, I love my dad. He doesn't always make it easy, but I do. Because I have put myself in his shoes. I know how and why he operates, from a state of unconscious fear and shame. I know how difficult it can be to look yourself in the mirror and admit personal shortcomings and mistakes. And I'm not sure if he knows how to do that.
You do nothing that I say.
Master, moving stones around is one thing. This is totally different.
When my father and I went to see Star Wars Episode 7, The Force Awakens, he was out before the opening credits even finished. I glanced over at his dusty head, balding and exposed, and I smiled. This is one of the many qualities I inherited from him. I, too, fall asleep pretty easily in the dark of a theater. I love going to the movies, but the combo of dimmed lights and an escape from reality conjures the perfect nap. I can forget about my own world for a couple of hours, let the chair absorb my body, and pass into dreamland for a solid 30-40 minute nap. This started when I hit my mid-20s, after I stopped drinking, and it was uncontrollable. It doesn't always happen, but I'd say 80% of the time if I'm going to the movies, I know I'm diving into some shut-eye. I allow my body and mind to succumb to the world of the story on the screen in front of me, and I welcome that irrevocable feeling of soft exhaustion to sink in. John is the same, and I know I get it from him. I noticed it a lot when I was a kid, even at home. It didn't matter what movie it was, Mulan or The Exorcist. At any moment, I could look at him and his mustache, and he'd be out, cold. And when he did, he always looked so peaceful. The car sputtered in the cold December dark, floating quietly in a stratosphere of other vehicles parked at the drive-in movie theater in Lockport, New York. I looked back up at the gargantuan screen, and then back at my dad once more. He was out, hard. John, my father, newly diagnosed with cancer, mesothelioma, stage 4, as a result of the asbestos-cloaked air floating through the demolished D.C. Navy yards in the early 1980s. I stared at his dusty head, balding and exposed, and I thought, I'm just like him. I'm nothing like him.
Mesothelioma is a rare, malignant type of cancer in the lungs, usually associated with exposure to asbestos. If you or a loved one have been diagnosed with mesothelioma, call the law offices.
I look up at the giant screen towering over the ruins of the Mountain Drive-In, and I can hear my father's laugh. Harsh, husky, and it's only gotten wheezier since his diagnosis. I stare at the bruised and battered outdoor theater and imagine a Star Wars marathon, all bajillion movies, playing in sequence for however many days it takes. In my daydream, I'm here with John. The Empire Strikes Back, our favorite Star Wars installment, plays on the screen. Luke Skywalker hangs on for dear life as his father's iconic line spills out over the loudspeakers.
No, I am your father.
Amidst my fantasy, I giggle at the irony. I never realized how appropriate it was that my father and I share the same deep love for The Empire Strikes Back. A story that, in part, addresses complicated father-son relationships. My father never chopped off my hand with a lightsaber, at least not physically. Metaphorically, maybe, but even that's a little dramatic. As the credits start to roll, John asks me if I'd like to get some popcorn, and I oblige. We discuss how exciting it is that the Return of the Jedi is next, how fun the final battle sequence in the film is to watch, and I ask questions like, do you think Luke Skywalker feels any guilt for fighting against his father? Because, it's not very biblical of him. No, John responds.
I'm just saying, I think...
No, it is not.
It's just something to consider.
I watch my dad as he begins to outpace me by a few steps, which I don't mind because I know he's competitive. And then, without warning, I'm yanked into the sky to watch this made-up scene from a bird's-eye view, and I realize, for the first time since I started exploring the ruins of America, that this is the first fantasy where someone I know has become the main imaginary character. Not that my father is imagined, but this version of him is. This version of him is the one I remember. The guy who, when I was in middle school, would slip me $20 bills when I'd go out to the mall with my friends. The man who was always, mostly, supportive of my decision to chase a dream of being a performer. The dad who I didn't know had the gumption to vote for the vetoing of my rights as a tax-paying, law-abiding, mostly, citizen of the United States. The dad who wasn't trapped by his own fear of change. But maybe, I realize, that person never actually existed. Maybe, sometimes, my imagination doesn't serve me or help me understand reality through this wanderlusting lens of wonderment. Maybe, sometimes, I invent versions of the people I would like them to be. Because it's easier to make believe that certain relationships in my life are good and steady when they're not as perfect as that. The imagination isn't always a place of reprieve. The thing is, I love him.
Blake,
I love John, even after all that.
This is a poem.
I don't know if that's an abuse victim talking or if I really do feel that way, but I do inherently love my father. And I know that he thinks about abandoned spaces in many of the same ways I do. The nostalgic piece of exploring them and how they represent memory and time and space and life and death. He even recently sent me a poem about abandoned spaces that I loved so much, I asked him to send me a recording of him reading it.
When I was little. So, here it goes. The little toy dog is covered with dust, but sturdy and staunch he stands. And the little toy soldier is red with rust, and his musket molds in his hands. Time was when the little toy dog was new, and the soldier was passing fair. And that was the time when our little boy Blue kissed them and put them there. Now don't you go till I come, he said, and don't you make any noise. So toddling off to his trundle bed, he dreamt of the pretty toys. And as he was dreaming, an angel song awakened our little boy Blue. Oh, the years are many, the years are long, but the little toy friends are true. Aye, faithful to little boy Blue they stand, each in the same old place, awaiting the touch of a little hand. The smile of a little face. And they wonder, as waiting the long years through, in the dust of that little chair, what has become of our little boy Blue since he kissed them and put them there.
As I drop back into the drive-in movie fantasy in my head, I see my dad in line for refreshments. I stare at the back of his head, and I admire his loose-leaf hair, the way that he bites the insides of his cheeks, his harsh, husky, wheezy laugh. And I ask myself, do I have the grace and courage to accept him for who he is? A product of the 1950s and 60s, of white, small-town suburban Rust Belt America where he grew up, watching his own world decay around him, a circumstance that he also couldn't believe or accept, resorting to a fantasy of his own where Lockport, New York was, or someday would make a comeback?
The western terminus of the Erie Canal is Buffalo, largest inland port in the country. Located on the shores of Lake Erie, Buffalo is the second largest city in the state.
At the back of the Mountain Drive-In, there's a single building that houses the projection room, a concession stand, and the arcade. We dip inside to buy popcorn, and I stand and watch some teenagers go buck wild on a game of Miss Pac-Man, while John waits in line for our snacks. This room is a callback to a time and place of my own. I remember my own mall arcade days fondly. Entertainment venues like this one, before the internet, before analog evaporated into thin air. I hear the Pepsi soda fountain dispensing 2 soft drinks, one for me and one for my dad. And I make a bet with myself that he's going to buy some licorice too. And he does. I peer outside and straddle the fantasy and the reality. The 1990s and 2021. Under the shoddy roof of this remarkable time capsule that once served as a place of warmth and comfort. I watch my dad pay for the refreshments, including the red vines, and I feel a couple of new tears fall out of my face and onto the ground, dreaming of the relationship that we may never have. Is ours only a surface father-son bond? Trips to the movies and arcades and Home Depot where we get $1 hot dogs at the makeshift stand out in the parking lot. But never discussions of my authentic life, boys I fall in and out of love with, the artist I desire to be, or how I've come to understand the word God and what that actually means for me? Will I ever feel entirely comfortable or safe around John? I have to accept the possibility that I won't, or I will go crazy. Or I could just wait and continue to show up for him, because he's never been intentionally cruel. We just don't see the world through the same telescope, and maybe that's okay. I guess it has to be. We make a slow walk back to the car as the concession stand flickers out and into its present form, distorted, desolate, defunct. My father and I clamber inside of the car, which invites the aromatic memory of musty seat fabric and day-old chili in a coffee mug. As the credits for The Return of the Jedi begin to roll, I glance over at my dad, then out across at the expanse of the drive-in movie theater, of time and space, and I remember to keep this misty reverie locked away, an attempt to honor my father whenever I enter a moment of mourning the man he maybe never was, and maybe never will be, and mourning the boy who held on to the anger of false hope for so long. He puts his hand on my shoulder. Love you, Blakey. Love you too, Dad. Dad never starts that particular sentence with I. I'm not sure if that means anything, but I've always noticed that. I sit back and close my eyes. The sound of John Williams' iconic score echoes and fades away into the Catskills, along with my father's harsh, husky, wheezy laugh, 2 lightsabers, and a single line that I, like Luke Skywalker, have learned to appreciate in a new light after all these years. I am your father. He is my father.
Blake, this is your dad. I just wanted to make sure that you got your little device for your coffee top, the little Stirling engines. And of course, that's all. And it's very good to see you. Love you, honey. Bye.
If you're just tuning in, welcome to the third season of Abandoned, the All-American Ruins podcast. Join me every other week as I take you on an immersive sonic journey, recounting my expeditions of abandoned spaces across the United States, which I transform into fantastical audio experiences that allow you, dear listener, to dive into my imagination with me, or maybe inspire you to go out and use your own. If you don't want to miss it, please subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts, and subscribe and rate and review, etc., etc. Also, if you like to read or enjoy amateur photography, just know that each episode this season is adapted from the original All-American Ruins blog, where you can catch up on more of my adventures. Just visit allamericanruins.com or follow me on Instagram at allamericanruins. Abandoned, the All-American Ruins podcast is hosted, written, edited, and produced by me, Blake Pfeil, with studio space courtesy of Radio Kingston, WKNY AM 1490, FM 1079 in Kingston, New York. And thank you, my friend, for taking the time to explore these abandoned spaces with me.